classroom counseling. Right now, when I say classroom counseling, or why did I select this topic, is because bygone are the days when we were meant to serve only as teachers. Now we have multiple roles. When we are entering into a classroom, we are their guide, we are their friends, we are their confidants, and more than this, we are their counselors as well. So through today's webinar, I'll be trying to tell you people into how many ways, because remember, this is not the complete classroom counseling session, but yes, the basics of the classroom counseling, which I think being teacher, we all should be using. And I hope all the tips will be really helpful for all of you. Can we have the next slide, please, sir? Yes. Watch a video before we start. Sir, volume, it's not audible. Let's watch a video before we start into the actual.
Man, when I look at that kid, it's hard to believe that that was actually me. I definitely struggled through that time. I was so angry, felt so alone. It was so hard to make friends. But to tell you the truth, I probably wasn't much fun to be around. I definitely found schoolwork so much harder than most people. Every year I struggled and it just felt like it was harder and harder to keep up. If there were people, they tried to reach out to me, but I wasn't very nice to them. I just lost control. I just felt so isolated. Yeah, things started to change when I hit year 5. You know, my teacher, she just made such a difference. I knew she liked me even though she pulled me up when I did something wrong. She was always happy towards me and smiling and showed an interest in me. She definitely noticed that I needed something extra than the other kids. So, my teacher ended up calling my parents. She got us booked in with the counsellor, who really listened and got my parents and teacher to understand what was going on with me. Yeah, I don't know what would have happened if my teacher hadn't stepped in when she did. The counsellor was cool. She gave my parents advice on how to help me and spend more time with me and things like that. She was also just a massive help for me too. I was calmer, and hey, I even made some friends. She gave me some ideas on how to manage my feelings and just make better choices. And it worked. It was such a battle up to that point, and things, they could have turned out very differently if it wasn't for my teacher. What changed things was someone noticing and taking that extra step to find the right help for me.
Am I audible, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, there was a power cut, right? So now the video, can we have a look at the previous slide only, sir? Not this one. The video which we watched spoke about many things, like what are those different things which the video spoke about? Can anyone please share? Through the chat box or through this, I mean, you can unmute yourself and then tell how many things did we see into this? What was the challenge that the child was facing? Anyone challenge? Attention. Okay, here I get an answer. Sorry? Yes, attention. What else?
Isolation.
Wonderful. Isolation. Yes. What else? The child was not able to relate himself with his identity. Who am I is one of the biggest questions which the children face every now and then. Not because they don't have intelligence or not because they cannot sense, but because they need someone to channelize them. They need a channel, or they need a supporter. They need a confidant who can, yes, unable to cope up stress. Wonderful. So yes, these all are the important issues which the child faced. And then we saw the beautiful role played by the teacher. So in today's session, we'll be unfolding many ways in which you can actually identify the counselor within you. Because remember, the very first thing which we take when we get into teaching job is, knowingly or unknowingly, we become healers, right? We become counselors. So let's get into the next slide and get to know who is a counselor actually. It's not only a person who holds a certified degree is only called to be as a counselor, but more than that. Sir, can we have this look at the next slide, please? Yes. So here I have brought my version of the word counselor. Like the very first, who is a counselor? Someone who's caring, someone who's open to acceptance, someone who's unbiased, someone who's nourishing in nature. And remember, I'm not talking about physical nourishment. I'm talking more about mental nourishment. Someone who knows how to steer a person, someone who's empathetic, someone who's loving, a person who's always optimistic no matter how hard the situation comes in front of him or her. And sorry, Nidhi ma'am, you were saying something? Okay, reassuring. Now, when we have read all these points, can we, I mean, is that not that we relate with these terms every now and then? Are we not using all these things in our classroom day to day, especially the teachers? Are we not using these things? Please answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, every now and then. It's, see, every day. How many multiple ways are there in which we care about children? We care about their incomplete work. We care about whether the child has eaten the tiffin or not. We are open to acceptance, but sometimes it really becomes hard for us to accept. When does it happen? Because like we are also human beings, right? And sometimes when we are overworked, we close that acceptance. We are not ready to take a child can do mistakes also, right? Sometimes it happens, not always, but yes, sometimes it happens. We are always empathetic. We are not sympathetic, but we are empathetic, right? We are always optimistic. Many of us try to tell the child, no, you have the capability, you know, you can do it. Our reassurance is something which helps the child to recognize, to identify what are his strengths. Right? In today's feedback form, if sir will be sharing the feedback form, I'm going to share the format of the SWOT analysis. What will be the benefit of that SWOT analysis format? It will help you identify what the strength, what is the weakness, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats to your students. Each individual can find his or her own SWOT, and this helps in decluttering as well. So that we'll be discussing towards the end. I hope this slide makes very clear who is actually a counselor. And that is why I define a classroom teacher as a counselor. We are no less than counselor. It's only that we are not holding that degree, or we don't have the title. Rather, we have the title of a classroom teacher, right? Next slide, please, sir. Now, what does a counselor do? Let us get into this. If we are at step 1, basic work associated with teacher is supposed to be correcting, not only with the teacher, but when you talk about parents also, when you talk about other stakeholders, the parents, the guardians around, or the friends, or whatever, we all are into this. Let me correct this child. But we always forget there's a saying which goes like connection before correction and connection for correction. By the time we do not build a connection, we will not be able to make any correction in the child. Have you not seen, no matter how hard I try to tell a child, you have to finish the homework, you know, you have to be attentive in the class, but still that child is not paying any attention. despite of you being, sometimes we threaten the child of punishment, of calling their parents, of putting a note in their diaries, but nothing works on them. Excuse me, what's lacking there? It's the connection. Ma'am, can you, Usha Shri, ma'am, can you mute yourself, please? There is a background noise. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Right. So what does a counselor do? A counselor builds the collection.
Ma'am, unmute yourself. I've muted everyone.
So is this not the very first role of a classroom teacher? You cannot correct anyone by the time you do not build a connection. So always remember, in your journey, moving ahead from a teacher to the counselor, the very first thing you need is to start building connection with your children. Only then you will be able to do the correction in them. Because as I said, and not this connection not only should be with your students, but also, with our fellow mates, with our team members. The very first thing what the counselor does is it shifts his or her focus from correction to connection. Because always remember, once connected, correction is going to be the one of the, you can call it as byproducts of the connection which you're going to build with your children. Can we move to the next slide, please, sir? Yes. Let us now unfold into how many ways can you convert yourself into a counselor from a teacher. The very first slide, it says active listening. Can anyone please help me identifying or defining how do you identify or how do you define active listening? Any one of you, either through chat box or you can unmute yourself and answer.
When a child tells you, good evening, ma'am. When a child tells you something, if he comes to tell you a problem, if he comes to tell, I have this problem, so then are we listening to him? Or if he has any issues, are we listening to him? That is known as active listening. We should not neglect the child. What he says, we should not neglect it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Anyone would like to add on to this?
Good evening,
yes,
ma'am.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
If any one of the child comes and speak to us, we should not get diverted among ourselves. We have to listen to him properly, what he is telling. We have to give response to him, actually.
Exactly. And that is why, most of the time we all are passive listeners. When do we become passive listeners? When we listen only because I have to answer immediately, the person stops talking. But remember, as a classroom counselor, as ma'am said, as Marina ma'am said, and as Jainavi ma'am said, you have to listen. You have to make the child believe that, yes, you are all ears to that child. Have to divert them. Okay, let me read. Have to divert them up to their way of grasping images or fun-filled items. Yes, wonderful. Wonderful answers I'm getting over here. Yes. So it is, see, you have to make the child feel that you're engaged with him. Like most of the time it happens, sometimes a child comes to me in the staff room, and if I'm busy doing my correction and the child is speaking, and I let him know, you know, I'm listening, you can speak, I'm listening. Yes, respond with a smile and give. Yes. Wonderful. That confidence that you can share anything with me. Now, most of the time it happens that we teachers are kept busy. So a child comes and we are doing the correction, or probably I'm typing a message in the WhatsApp group, and probably I may not be all ears to the child. So what happens? The child starts feeling disconnected. I went to my teacher with so much high hope that she or he will be listening to me, but my teacher was busy in the phone. And not only this happens with the teachers, this happens with the parents as well. Many a times when we are, when it's evening time, when it's our family time, we may not be finding the children are sitting around us, but all of us are busy either in the phone or, scheduling the next day or what. So the very first thing is, you have to make the child believe you're all ears to him, right? And when you're listening to child, your body language should speak of that, yes, you're attentive listener. You should not be engaging in looking your phone or doing your correction. I understand, being teachers, we have so many, so much of the workload, one after the other. We have so many things, and then we think like, okay, I've made important notes, I've made points of what the child has come to share with me. But by the time the child feels that, yes, I'm valued, I'm validated by what by the gestures of the person who's listening to me. That makes a difference between a normal teacher and a counselor teacher. So the very first thing, please engage yourself in active listening. Can we have a look at the second slide, please? Next slide, please, sir. Yes. Now here again, it's a video. Sir, can you play this video? Yes. From where is this thread coming with which the child is knitting? Is it an external source provided to the child? Look at the picture carefully. Look at the video carefully and then answer, please.
Ma'am, his own inner capabilities.
Yes. Yes. Punita ma'am, you were saying something?
Yes. His own
Yes.
inner capabilities, I said.
Exactly. See, the thread is in his brain only, the thread of imagination with which we, the counselors, are able to, help the child weave the most beautiful fabric called life. This is what a therapist does. But before doing that, what do I have to do? I have to build a rapport to bring out the best in a child. Now, how do we build rapport? See, there are many ways in which we build rapport. One is the verbal rapport building. In verbal rapport building, you repeat the words which a child comes and says to you. Yes, I understand. Yes, I know how you're feeling right now. I can imagine if this thing would have happened with me, I would have also been equally hurt. I can well relate with you. These reassuring words, or these words with which we make the child believe that, yes, I'm at the level of understanding. And then the second thing comes is the mirroring, the body rapport. How do we build that? Like, if I'll give you a simple example, if someone around us yawns, don't we feel like yawning? It's a natural phenomenon. Can we stop that? No, we cannot stop that. It's
Ma'am, it is contagious. Contagious.
Yes, yes. It is not only contagious, ma'am. It is actually the body's way of mirroring the actions of someone else. This is a very, very powerful word in NLP, in which our body, catches us. Like if someone is sitting opposite to me, that person has right leg over the left leg, and probably this is the posture where his right arm is over the left arm. You will automatically notice you will be doing the opposite of that. Your left leg will be on your right leg, and same with this hand position. So these are the two ways, and you get to know when you start building this body rapport, or when you start building the rapport with the child, it becomes very, very visible. The child starts coming into comfort zone. Knowingly, unknowingly, you copy the gesture of the children. The children copy the gestures of they pick up the words which you are using. And that's the point when a counselor realizes, yes, I have actually hit this spot. I have come to that point where I have been successful in building the rapport. So this video is a very powerful, though it's a very small video, yet very powerful video, which tells what does a therapist or what does a counselor do. A counselor builds the rapport so that he or she can make the child believe that you are the best. And I'm going to help you weave all those threads of the best in you into the most beautiful fabric. So this is the second work of the classroom counselor. The next slide, please, sir. Yes. Now, empathy, the gateway to a child's heart. Again, by the time we stick to the word sympathy, we can just, there's just a very what do we call it, as fine line between sympathy and empathy. Most of the people think, yes, if I'm listening to you, if I'm, if I'm expressing my grief, or if I'm expressing my sorrow along with you, that does the thing. No, a child needs more than sympathy. A child needs empathy. And only then we'll be able to know. It's a very common saying, no, in which we say, you step your foot into my shoes, and only then you'll be able to know how much it pinches. So understand a child, excuse me, understand a child who's sitting in the classroom. How many levels of pressure is that child going through? He has parental expectations. He has self-expectations. He has his peers to compete with. He has his, body challenges. Adolescence is hitting the child. So he's constantly watching some behavioral, some emotional, some physical changes in him. And probably he's not able to express that. And because the child is not able to express that, he may turn into a certain set of behavior which may not be acceptable by us. At that time, the child does not need a punishment or does not need a moral lecture. All he needs is empathetic ear to listen to him, to relate. And most of the time, it so happens we see the behavior at the surface level. Okay, you haven't completed the work. I'm going to give a call to your parents. Let me take you to the principal. Let me take you to the coordinator. And then, you'll be treated well, or I'm going to put a note in your diary. I know some of the children do this on purpose because they have built this habit of not doing the work, no matter how sweet or how caring or how empathetic you to be with them. But most of the time, it so happens that children are going through a lot. And when you become empathetic towards them, only then you will be able to understand what is the situation through which the child is going right now. So the third important characteristic of a classroom counselor, that is you, my dear teachers, is being empathetic towards your students. Next slide, please, sir. Right. Can anyone tell me what is an open-ended question? How do we define open-ended question?
A question that can have many answers.
Wonderful, Marina ma'am. Wonderful. Any else would like to answer? Anyone
that
else would like
arouses
to
imagination.
Wonderful. That arouses imagination. Yes. And what is a close-ended question?
Just a yes or no question.
Exactly.
Just a yes or no question.
Exactly. Just a yes or a no question. Now, my dear teachers, yes, please. Someone was saying something. Continue, please. I love to have interactive sessions. Trust me on this. I love when you all answer. That boosts up my morale as well. I'm sorry if I intervened in between, but someone was trying to answer. Can I get that answer, please? Okay. So, let's take a situation. Okay. I'm giving you a situation, and then you think, there is a child in your class. Yes and no question is the closed. Okay. Thank you, Swati ma'am. Thank you, Swati ma'am. Yes. There is a situation. There is a child in your class who was very obedient, who was, the first one to submit his work, but slowly, for the past few weeks, you are seeing a decline in that child. The child has picked up the habit of telling lies. The child is not completing his or her work on time. He's showing quite a disinterest in his eating things also. What would be the first thing which you would want to know from that child? How will you deal with this situation? Can I get some answers, please?
I would like to ask him the reason why he is not completing his work. Okay. Is he facing any problem?
Mm-hmm. So, before getting straight into this question, ma'am, what would be your first step?
I would like to build a connection with that child, show my caring and loving nature towards him or her, try to be a friend to him, that he opens his heart to me.
Yes.
But with
Punita
senior
ma'am is
students,
right.
ma'am, this will not work it out.
Sorry, ma'am, say again,
So,
please.
with senior students, when we are trying to ask that why you didn't complete that homework, then I guess this would not work because they may say, "Ki, ma'am, this or that happened," but next time again, they will say the same thing that we don't get the time or we are engaged in tuitions or something else. So,
Yes.
actually, we need to find out that how what we can do. Like having a empathy will not work every time, or
Yeah.
asking the reason they may hide that why they didn't do or they don't like it.
I'm getting some wonderful answers. Shaz Khan is writing, first praise him. Just a minute, ma'am. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you in a minute.
Confidence.
Yes. First, praise him for
Confidence.
something good I see in him, gain his confidence and give him assurance, written by Komal Sharma, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Someone said building confidence.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, see, let's get a little detail over this. Marina ma'am's answer is also right. And ma'am said, it is not applicable. I guess Sonam ma'am said it is not applicable for the children who are in senior classes. Yes, completely in agreement with this. So, you know what happens when you have to being a classroom counselor, the very first thing is we have to use those ideas which are age appropriate. I cannot go in class 12 and can teach them, A is for apple and B is for boy, because I have to improve their English. Yes, there are many ways through which I can make them realize, because no matter what, a child who's writing spellings incorrectly definitely has a great problem in understanding the phonics. He is not able to understand the sound. So somehow or the other, the very first thing I have to make the child understand or get a clear view on what are phonics and how can you frame the spellings. So basic idea remains the same. But yes, to what level do we take it? That is what defines the solution. Like as I was asking over here, asking open-ended questions. In how many ways can we ask that? Like you can engage the child into conversation, one-on-one conversation you can have with child. Sometimes, you can give them survey forms through emails, wherein you can put questions and then, it should not be given the name with this, okay, I'm going to judge you, or, I'm going to check on you, or I'm inquiring. Yes. Punita ma'am said, we need to coax to sacrifice distractions. Yes. But sometimes, these moral teachings don't work with the children, because in that case, you have to hit that point hard again and again in different ways. Like we were discussing, you can just give a survey form to the entire class. Don't give it to one child. Why? Because then that child will become suspicious. Okay, I'm being tracked for this. So that is one of the ways in which we do. Or you can sometimes, when your few of your children, classroom children, are behaving in a way that is not classroom appropriate, you can quickly frame a question which can be a writing paragraph or something like that, which is very much circling around it. And you'll be amazed to see what the inner thoughts and how beautifully do the inner thoughts of the children come out. You can even, when I was practicing my this handwriting, analysis and drawing analysis, I was really amazed to hear this, or I was really amazed to listen to this, to learn this, that you all remember that basic picture of when you tell a child to draw scenery. They make mountains, and then there is a river flowing, and then there is a hill, and then there is a sun, and then there are the birds flying. Did we not draw that when we were children? Many of us have drawn that picture when we were children. So, each of the element the child draws in that picture says a lot about that child. The way a child writes says a lot. How much margin is the child leaving? What is the distance between the alphabets or the words the child is making use of? Is he leaving right-hand side, or is he leaving left margin, or he isn't ready to leave any margin? How is the child making the use of that page? All these things may be very time taking. Someone will say, oh my God, I have to deal with 30 notebooks in a day, in a period. And now ma'am is telling to take a detailed note of all this. No, don't do for every child, but pick up some who are, dealing with learning problems, learning gaps, or whatever you can call it as, analyze their notebook. That also gives you lots and lots of information. And that already becomes an answer to your open-ended question. What was your hidden open-ended question? What are you dealing through? So if the child is going through some physical problem, if the child is going through some familial issues, if the child is going through some emotional issues, all is reflected not only in his body language, but the way he is writing, the way he is behaving with his children, the way he is the other children, the way he is behaving with you, the way he is answering back you, everything serves in itself as an answer to that hidden question, which supposedly I'm not going to ask that question again and again. That question is in my mind. And this is helpful when you're dealing with the senior children. With small children, I appreciate the way Marina ma'am has answered that yes, you should go and ask him like, beta, what happened and why are you troubled? Is something troubling you? And once you build the rapport, the child speaks up. When the child feels comfortable, a child of class 6 and 7 speaks up when you build trust in it. But yes, the children above class 8, you have to find out various ways in which you're actually asking open-ended questions, but using different methods. And probably those methods are not known to the children also. I hope this is very clear to all of us. Can we move to the next slide, please? If it's clear. Yes, let's watch another video.
Are you okay? Yeah? Have you been crying? No. Do you want to talk about it? No. Do you want a hug? Yeah.
Can you please stop playing the video? Yes. Now, is this not one of the ways of asking an open-ended question? Come on, dear people. Is this not one of the ways of getting an answer to my open-ended question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. Swati ma'am is writing yes. Marina ma'am says yes. See, that is what, there are multiple ways. A child will not open himself or herself. Yes. Yes, Samriti ma'am. Yes, Namrata ma'am. Thank you so much. So a child may necessarily not always need a worksheet or a survey method or, a different strategy to be dealing with. Sometimes a counselor, a classroom teacher or a counselor has to get multiple ways. The moment that boy said, like, do you want a hug? And the other boy said, yes. The very first thing which I got as an answer was the child is deprived emotionally. And when I get to know this, yes, this child is emotionally deprived, then from that point onwards, I can start making my strategies. How can I make that child believe in his emotions or make the child feel emotionally secure again? And once you work on this root cause, someone had written in the chat box that we need to find the root cause. Yes. So when we get to know the root cause, solution becomes really easy. Sometimes, what happens? A child goes through a phase of hanger. I'm not saying anger. It's hangry, Hangry. Can anyone define what do we mean by this term hangry?
Maybe angry because of hunger.
Wonderful. That's the best. That's actually the right answer. Hunger and anger. Yes. The child is not angry. The child is hungry actually and is showing his hunger through anger. So probably sometimes like children who are getting very cranky in second or probably in the first period, they are cranky, they are distracting the other children, they are not letting us teach. The primary reason may be the child is hungry, he did not eat well, he did not sleep well. So that is why, I mean, these little things, all we need is observation. What is getting wrong with my children? You know, whenever I enter in my class, I just wake my children up. Like I tell them, okay, you just fold your palms like this, and now you try to make 8 this by moving your palms like this. So 8 in the clockwise direction and 8 in the anti-clockwise direction. This is one of the tried and tested methods you all can try in your class, you know, to wake up the mind of your children. And this work wonders. Engage at least every teacher. It's not only the duty of the class teacher to go early in the morning and ask, are you okay? How are you feeling today? And this and that. No, I'll be sharing certain worksheets as well with you, wherein through these worksheets, you will be able to make the child register, at least acknowledge, understand what are my emotions, what is my feelings, what am I going through right now. And that's a great help, which helps all of us, the teachers in the classroom, you know, to make the children better. Sir, can we have the next slide, please? Or this is something, that's a previous slide only, because then I'll be talking about it little later. So can we have some discussion now on this? Any questions, any discussion which you would like to be, you know, actively engaged in? Anything, any question? Let's you know, listen to the questions and answers. And if you face any those problems in the classroom which you feel like is really
sorry
difficult.
to interrupt, ma'am. Dear all, the meeting ends in 1 minute. So as
Okay.
the learning is not completed, kindly join with the same link again so that we can conclude the session. Yes.
Sure, sir.
You can continue.
So meanwhile, we can begin with our question answer session. Or if the meeting stops, then we'll quickly go through a recap, and then probably we can have our QA session. Meanwhile, if any one of you has any question or need any help, you can either put it in the chat box or can unmute yourself and can ask, please.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Which are the
If
first
it's
two things here?